Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
We are so glad you're here. Well, the creation of a $1,000 incentive to have a baby is just one way America's political leaders hope to stop the population slide. But will it actually work? The Morning Light panel will look to Japan for some help on stopping America's 2 decades-long baby decline.
Very interesting conversation.
I think it will be.
But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Helping churches move from the sanctuary to the streets. That is the goal of Front Yard Mission. Learn how this nonprofit is encouraging us to love our neighbors.
Taking it to the streets.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for decades, Japan's population decline has baffled sociologists. In the 1970s, Japanese moms gave birth to 2.1 million babies. The number last year, just 686,000. Add to this a huge dip in first-time marriage rates. In response, the Japanese government is spending big government money, tax dollars, to study the root causes, even offering financial incentives, including free child care to stop the slide. Will that do it, is the big question.
That is amazing. But in the years now after World War II, it was a far different story. From the 1950s well into the 80s, post-war Japan was America's main economic competitor, an undisputed economic superpower. Large families created a huge consumer base and one of the most educated and productive workforces in the world. Japan's so-called bullet train economy was fast, highly efficient, and loyal to hard-driving employers.
I remember that period of time because people were saying made in the USA, not made in Japan, but you don't hear that as much
That's
lately.
right.
So what can America learn from Japanese fall, rebirth, and seemingly self-inflicted decline again? Is it possible Japanese leaders prize productivity, loyalty to corporate life at the expense of family? And is it possible Japan's ruthless pursuit of achievement in academics and innovation made the land of the rising sun incompatible with family life? Is it too late to keep it from happening here? We'll take this question to the Morning Light panel. Pastor Joe Green, Pastor David Smith, and Michelle Keadle-Taylor on the docket today. Friends, welcome. How many of you, any of you have been to Japan?
I'm not.
I was there a half an hour, so it doesn't really count. Michelle, I'm going to start with you. This notion of an economy built on productive citizens, it looks like if you look at Japan, you say after World War II, they're rebuilding, there's excitement, the economy is surging, they find a way to make everything efficient and products with excellence. But this salary man, the head of the household, was burning out and the family behind the scenes was falling apart. This generation says, I don't want that. Are they wrong? Where did Japan go wrong, you think?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Where did Japan go wrong? I can't speak on where Japan went wrong, I don't think. But I think society as a whole, I kind of feel a little convicted too, because the bottom line is I think the dynamics and changing in the workforce and also in the family unit. I think that with the rising cost of economy across the world and things like that, women have had to work more too. And I'm one of those women. So I waited very late to have children.
Yeah.
So by the grace of God, I was able to have 3 children. But I know for me, it was like I was caught up in what I was doing, you know, and then I was doing ministry as well. And then after that, before you knew it, your time flies by. And I wonder if that shapes the dynamics a little bit too. And then when you have when you're working really hard in corporate life and everything, which I could see what happened in Japan, and there's a lot of emphasis on achievement, you're tired when you come home too. And then what happens with the kids? Because the more children you have, the more attention they need. It's a second job. Not to say children are a job, but there's a lot of effort and love and care that goes into them. And there's been times I know in my own life where I felt like, are they getting like sloppy seconds by the time I come home and I'm tired, you know? And
So you're saying it's not limited to Japan. This is
I don't think it is.
It's right.
I don't.
But something has kept us from declining as significantly as Japan. But Japan also was ruthless in pursuing excellence and demanding from its workers everything except this little piece left over for family life. But I think Michelle's right that many American families, especially fathers, have found that pressure is not unique to Japan, is it? It's pretty much universal.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think if we, especially as believers, if we don't help the American family rediscover not the American dream, but the biblical idea of, number one, if we're talking about babies, it's interesting that we're talking about babies. The Bible assumes if you're going to have babies, you're going to be married, right? It's not just about having babies. It's about being
and
married.
Japan's marriage rate is cut in half.
Exactly. So it's important for us to reinstitute what the Bible says about family, to celebrate marriage. Jeff, that's a novel idea to even talk about getting married again.
But can you decouple this picture of marriage that you're describing? Can you pull it apart from this ruthless pursuit of the dream?
Absolutely. I think you have to. I think because if you don't, and here's what's key, and I think we all know this. You mentioned being in ministry. Ministry's has the same demands as corporate America. The corporate 500 companies, the same demands that are there. 80 hours a week. The whole idea of if I work more will be produced in that, or even in ministry.
People are saying, but family doesn't pay, David.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But the arrows that God gives us, right? The ones that we're able to shoot out in the world, those are our first. That's our first ministry. That is, and I think we have missed that. And there's so much value there. There is so much good that we can do, God glorifying good that we can do with our children, and shaping and molding them that are going to last. It's going to last a lot longer than the plaque that we get or the watch that we get when we retire.
And it's just the joy of having children,
Yeah.
right? Like I mean,
it's a blessing.
It's somebody, before I didn't think I was going to have children or wanted to have children, but it was based on a lot of unhealthy ideas and fear and things like that. And then once I got past that and recognizing that, and then once getting past that, it was like, I can't imagine my life without them. And that's not to make people out there to feel bad if you can't have kids or something.
So there is this, I was speaking to a young man in the Congo, or in Kenya yesterday, from Congo. And he said, I've heard this in America, that at a certain age you kick the children out of the home. He goes, you mean they don't live in the home anymore? Now, he's living in a home with multi-generations, with lots of activity, with lots of life. When you have a problem, you're going to the family and you're not reaching out. Americans might look at that and say, what do you mean sitting around talking to your family and eating together in these long 2-3 hour meals? That's laziness. If you want to make something of yourself, you have to surrender your time, sacrifice your family, and achieve.
Yeah.
Is what Michelle's picture, are we giving leftovers to our family?
I definitely believe that. And I have, over the years, really tried to hone my worldview, because worldviews shape cultures. And because we become less kingdom-minded, biblical worldview, our priorities are different. And so...
so where did you start, before you started honing, where were you? And as you've honed, where have you landed?
I was like a lot of people that I thought about, you got to have your career first, you got to have your house first, you got to have your promotions first, get your career in order. And then after all that's said and done, okay, let's have a family now. And when we think about it, we are giving them kind of leftovers, because if you think about the concept of generations past, family was the center of everything we did. And other cultures that are very successful have the same idea. We have a Nepali family who used to live across the street from us. They had about 4 generations in their household because family was a priority, and out of that you have success, you have longevity, you have multi-generational wealth. You pass on your house to your children.
But what about somebody who's listening and saying, oh, do you mean the father-in-law, the mother-in-law? And they're thinking, and what about the food, and what about the fridge? People in America get very practical when they think about, well, we need space and time and me spaces. Our homes are almost designed that way.
Because we bought into that other worldview that's contrary to the biblical kingdom worldview, which is family is the center of whatever we do. And so we get married, we raise children, and out of that we still have time for the success. And I always think about young men. What do we tell our young men a lot of times in the culture? Go out, enjoy your life, sow your wild oats. And then after you've drained the best, most energetic years of your life,
now settle down.
Now I'm gonna get the ball and chain, right?
And you're watching the grandkids from afar.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, because I can't go play ball with them because I've waited. But like I said, it's just worldview shapes culture, and because we have increasingly grown away from a biblical kingdom worldview, our priorities are different than what I believe God has told us should be our priorities.
Potentially, should we be talking and thinking about multi-generational homes, environments? Should we be thinking about not just Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, when will we see families, but living closer together? I mean, is there anything we can learn from the cultures who aren't big economic powerhouses in Africa and Asia that maybe we should apply to America?
Well, I think quickly that this is worth doing, number one.
Okay.
That the end result is something that is good and beneficial. Long term.
Okay.
Secondly, it is hard. Jeff, what you described, who's going to cook, who's going to clean, who's doing X, who's buying the groceries, that is very, very difficult. Family is hard. But that, because we're family, we endure one another. We patiently endure one another. So I think those two things are critical. It's a good thing, but it's going to be hard work. You've got to labor through it.
And you know, one of the things I see too, I deal with a lot of elderly people more recently, even in our congregation, that people are going to retirement homes and you're worried about the care for your grandparents and great-grandparents. But when you have multi-generations living in the household, you don't have that same fear because, like I said, the family that lived across the street from us, they had a 16-year-old daughter and they had the 103-year-old great-grandmother in the same household, and they were able to care for them and even have the other family members was able to help in the care as well.
Absolutely.
You know what I
was
think?
just say that maybe what happens too is as you're changing one family at a time, what happens is then our whole community picture starts to change.
Yeah.
So I look at different places in Latin America and things, and you become family minded, which then means, same in Africa, same in India, you have aunties. The aunties aren't even blood related to you, but you're caring for others in your community as if they were your family.
It takes a village.
And then, you know, it just helps lighten the burden for everybody all around, because it's not just one family trying to struggle through. If another family sees a family who's struggling and they treat them like, wow, this is like my own, they're helping with that.
Was it a Japanese or a Chinese proverb about many hands making light work?
Yeah.
But look, I know we have many friends watching in personal care homes and in long-term care facilities. They have never stopped mentally living with their families because every day they are praying for, calling, encouraging.
Absolutely. And that's valuable. Don't undervalue that. The prayers of the saints for their children. Don't undervalue that.
And the wisdom you get from dealing with them.
But there was a lot of wisdom here today. So we've redesigned the family. We have stopped the population decline, all in 10 minutes.
That's right.
Not bad, friends.
Problem solved.
Well, coming up next, here on Morning Light, we talk about the importance of loving your neighbor. This is also the goal of Front Yard Mission. You're going to see how the nonprofit is taking the church from coffee makers to disciple makers. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. Pray first, love all, invite often. Front Yard Mission is putting the Bible's greatest commandment into practice by reaching the people God has put in our path. Joining us is the director of Front Yard Mission, Jonathan Weibel. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Debra.
So tell us about Front Yard Mission. I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea of moving from your backyard to your front yard, both metaphorically and literally. We want to be in a position where we can intersect with our neighbors. We believe that the primary way that God has called us to engage with the world is through neighbor. And neighbor means one who is nearby. And so it's a love God, love neighbor movement in our world. And we're trying to help people and equip people to see their street as their mission field, their workplace as sacred, and their commonalities with others as the front door of the church.
So you wrote a book here, Front Yard Mission.
Yep, it's the best-selling book with the title Front Yard Mission. We wrote it about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago with a co-author, Steve Lutz, and kind of the genesis, the catalyst of the book was I was standing at Penn State outside of the aerospace engineering department, and this guy from the Middle East came up to me and he said, "Hey, professor," it was during COVID, so we had masks on. He mistook me for one of his professors, and I said, "Oh, I'm not who you think I am." And I said, "Are you a person of faith?" And he said, "No, but I like what some faith leaders have said." I said, "Well, give me an example." He's like, "When your Jesus said, love God and love neighbor as yourself," he's like, "I can get behind that." I'm like, "Oh, I'm kind of writing a book on that right now." And he said, "Can I tell you something?" he said, you Christians are really good at the first commandment, but you're really bad at the second commandment. Mm-hmm. So that was an inspiration to like, we're on the right track to write this book, Front Yard Mission. So
how do we go about doing this?
Well, we believe there's 3 rhythms to being a good neighbor, which is pray first. Like, prayer is not the pre-work of the Great Commandment, it's the work of the Great Commandment. So pray first, always be praying for your neighbors. We found that those who are regularly praying for their neighbors, they were 8 times more likely to have gospel conversations with their neighbors when they're regularly praying for them. And then love all. Look for loving things you can do to your neighbor to break down the walls. And then the last thing is invite often. So we create resources and ways for people to have events in their neighborhood, to start meeting their neighbors and getting to know their neighbors.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Now, you offer seminars to really equip churches to do this.
Yeah, we do a thing called the one-day seminar, and we spend a day with churches and we equip them. We teach our book. It's fun. There's videos, there's breakout sessions, and it's just a great day. And it's like I always say, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So it's always going to be fun.
And what has the reaction been?
It's been pretty great. Like, I know it's like this simple concept. Jesus took the 613 commands and he broke them down to 2, love God and love neighbor. And I think people kind of complicate their faith, but Jesus says, hey, this is it. Like, love God and love neighbor. And so I think there's like they can breathe again, you know? Like, okay, I think I can do that. Like, so I think it's been really received really well.
Now, you have an event coming up. Share with us.
Yeah, so we're having a fundraiser for our ministry. We're a 501c3, and so we're bringing in Carolyn Grimes, who actually played Zuzu in the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right.
Which is my favorite movie.
My favorite,
yeah,
too.
We had her on our Front Yard Mission podcast last year, and she's so great.
Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Oh, that's amazing.
She's everything you wanted Zuzu to be when she grew up. And so I got to meet her and know her, and we've become friends. And she's coming in. We're going to screen the movie, and we're going to interview her and talk about all the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff and a little bit about her life as well. So.
And when is that taking place?
That's December 8th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Calvary Church in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. So information is on frontyardmission.com.
Great. We do need to take a break, but we want to talk to you after, so stick around. When we come back, a pastor will share how Front Yard Mission helped his church build a community of friendship, faith, and transformation. That's next. In our last segment, you heard about Front Yard Mission. Now we want to share how this nonprofit is helping churches move from the pews to the streets, sharing God's great commandment. Joining me once again is Jonathan Weibel, along with youth pastor James Connolly from Immanuel Alliance Church in Mechanicsburg. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Debra.
So tell us, how has your church used Front Yard Mission?
Yeah, Front Yard Mission's actually been a foundation for our outreach ministry in our church. Our initiative in our church for outreach is actually called Love Your Neighbor. And so Front Yard Mission, we had Jonathan Weibel and Steve Lutz come in and do one of their one-day events. And it was pivotal. It was a catalyst event for our church, and being able to help people, specifically people that are maybe introverted or don't feel naturally gifted in evangelism. Evangelism has actually become a bad word in their minds. It made it attainable for them. It made them realize that I can do this. And it gave people confidence. And so it has been a blessing in our church in giving us intentionality and to be able to go into the streets and in the neighborhoods for Jesus.
And what were some of the things that you did or are doing?
Yeah, one of the things that we did is we actually partnered with a food truck guy owned a food truck in our area, and he provides and goes and organizes other food trucks to join, and we became a spot that we advertise and invite our community to come on out, and then we invite our church people, come out and have dinner with our community people and be intentional about building relationships. And we looked at that as a larger version of what we're hoping people will do in their own neighborhoods by doing things like dinner in the driveway, donuts in the driveway, some creative event, or doing an open house for their neighbors to come over and bring something and get to meet. And so we've done that as a way of modeling for our community or our church. This is what we want you doing in your own neighborhoods for your community.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what was the reaction, or what has the reaction been?
The reaction's been incredible. One of the things that has excited me so much about this initiative is seeing people that before felt shame because they felt like, I can't do evangelism, I can't do outreach, come to me with excitement and say, hey, my neighbor, I didn't know a single name in my neighborhood after living there for 10 years, and now I've connected with the one neighbor who's an elderly woman who had health issues, and now they're providing care for this elderly woman and being able to do great ministry now in a connection that was never there before. And another person in our church actually said that they tried to reach out to their neighbor a year ago, and their neighbor's first reaction was, I don't do religion, I'm not into that. And for the last year, they've been loving on this neighbor and showing kindness, and their neighbor just wrote a thank you card to them that said, you have been Jesus to us, and now we're open to faith.
Yeah, that is
amazing.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is amazing. And Jonathan, I mean, so many of us, I think, are inward. We go to church on Sunday and it stops.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of us are introverts too. I think the majority of people now are introverts, and I'm an extrovert, Debra. Like, you know, the scripture I struggle with most is, do not set your foot too often in your neighbor's house, lest he hate you. Everybody has a place in the Great Commandment. Everyone can pray for their neighbor, and everyone can do some kind of simple, loving thing. But we're also called to share the gospel with our neighbor. And we try to put the cookies of evangelism on the low shelf for people and try to help them to pray first, love all, and invite often. Invite them into your space, and hopefully that'll give opportunity to share why I'm the way that I am. You know, 1 Peter 3:15 talks about be ready to share the reason for the hope that you have. And evangelism is done a lot better when they're asking us the questions instead of us asking them the questions, because I believe that evangelism moves at the speed of relationship.
And Front Yard Mission not only helps churches in Pennsylvania, but all across the country.
Yeah, we have all kinds of resources. I travel and speak all around the country, but at frontyardmission.com, we have a digital masterclass that's free for anybody to take. We have our podcast that's also free. So we have lots of resources and helps for people to aid them in loving their neighbor.
Yeah, it really is a wonderful initiative, and it's making a difference.
Thank you, Debra.
Yeah, and that's what Jeff always says, reach out to your neighbor at the end of our program. So that's exactly what you're doing. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
To learn more about Front Yard Mission or to attend the organization's screening of It's a Wonderful Life, go to frontyardmission.com. Stay with us. We're back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up Monday on Morning Light, Pastor Dave Beiser has been a panelist on Morning Light numerous times. One morning he was scheduled to be here but failed to show up. There was a reason. He was in the hospital. He had just experienced a widowmaker heart attack. He will share his incredible journey with us. And that's a look at what's coming up Monday on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts, and have a wonderful weekend.
You have a great weekend, Debra. Well, yesterday afternoon, I found myself on a phone call with Pastor Ezekiel Deco-Omo on a WhatsApp call. He's a pastor in northern Nigeria, where an estimated 7,000 Christians have been slaughtered this year alone. A few weeks back, videos of Pastor Deco-Omo standing inside mass graves over the bodies of dead church members were shared tens of thousands of times, his voice pleading for the world to see and believe the reality of genocide in Nigeria. Before we left our call, he noticed a profile picture of my family on the app we were using and started praying for us, praying for a family in America. The same man pleading over mass graves is asking God to bless me, someone he's never met in person, someone he knows lives in relative safety. It was a lesson for me about humility, about kindness, about the way joy grows in the midst of persecution by loving well. Thank you, Pastor Decomo. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for spending the week with us. Go check on your neighbors this weekend, and God willing, we'll see you again Monday morning.